Hi, everybody. Okay, now let's talk a little bit. First of all, um, tonight, September 15, is the second time that Ishai Ribo is coming to the United States to Madison Square Garden. He's one of the, I won't, I can't say he's the number one singer in Israel, but he's one of the top five. Many would say he's the top. Some would say he's the top three. He's a phenomenally successful singer in Israel. And for those of us here in the United States, we don't know what's going on in Israel. And I've talked about it in some of the other classes, Tuesday and Thursday, that we're outside the culture. if we're if we're in America, we are, for those of you that had to read Plato's Republic in college or just bought the Cliff Notes, um, there's living in the cave and there's living out in the sunshine. And Plato, through presumably Socrates, is saying that most people live in the cave and they think it's daylight because that's the only world they know. And when they're given enlightenment and come out of the cave, it's like a whole different world. And most people never make it out of the cave. And if you're a Jew living outside of Israel, you're in the cave. And if you're in Israel, you're outside the cave. Now, sometimes outside the cave is very challenging. No one said that, that it's always easier outside the cave, but it's outside the cave. And inside the cave, it's kind of like being Jewish. Of course it is. And you're kosher and you keep Shabbat and you keep all the mitzvot. And if you go to the right places, you attend Torah classes and you have this, and which is sincere and pretty serious class. But Israel is another thing, especially when it comes to Jewish culture. It used to be in the 50s and 60s that Jewish culture was really evolving in America. Shlomo Carlebach, Mordechai ben David was as much an evolution of contemporary Jewish music as what was going on in Israel. Israel had Yoram Gaon and other significant singers as well. But now it's kind of moved. You really don't find great Jewish music coming out of America anymore. The days of the Shlomo Carlebachs and MBDs, Mordechai ben David, it's now moved to Israel. And what makes Ishai Ribo so extraordinarily special is that his music is a mix of general music and religious music. Sort of, we don't have like Christian music. Christians have, there's like a whole genre of Christian music. When you get cable TV and you have the music station and you see what are the different kinds of music they have, Broadway hits and rock and soft rock and hard rock and hip hop and classical this and Christian music. That's a thing. You don't really have historically, other than Carlebach and MBD, you didn't have a lot of like contemporary religious music. And Ishai Ribo is very interesting because it's not overtly religious, but if you look at the words, it doesn't sound religious. It doesn't sound like he's out for religious music. It's certainly not Lady Gaga or or Miley Cyrus, but it's a deeply moving, soft, spiritual music that could be secular too. Only his lyrics have a religious undertone if you listen to them. And the reason I'm talking about it is tomorrow in the Jewish papers, if nowhere else, they'll be talking about tonight's concert. A year ago, I spent about 4 weeks in a row talking about him and sharing his music with you on the Sunday programs. And most of us had never heard of him. Not only have we never heard of his music, we never heard of him. And next thing you know, he's filled Madison Square Garden with 18,000 people. And the first Israeli ever to do that. And since then, a woman, I think Eden Golan, came and did it. And now he's doing it, God willing, for the second time. And I hope, of course, that it's all safe and secure there. So we're going to have a few songs of Ishai Ribo today. And we're going to have some of the updates on the war in Gaza. But we're going to also have some really different kind of stuff. So here we go. I want to thank everybody for being here, really. And As you know from Tuesday and Thursday, if I don't forget to do so, I'm supposed to say, thank you. This is Rabbi Dov Fischer. Thank you for being at my class Sunday morning today. And I invite you to, well, let's try that again one more time. I'm better at ad-libbing when I'm not trying to. Hi, this is Rabbi Dov Fischer, and welcome to our Sunday morning class on Sunday, September 15. And if you're interested in more of my classes, please go to my YouTube channel or search for me. And usually I'm in hiding, so just go for the Google channel. Anyway, here we go. Ishai Ribo, this is maybe his #1 song. I don't know if you can see from this, so I'll have to make it bigger. But before we listen to the song, Israel is a country of 9 million people. Can you see how many people have heard this song? Or the 32 million views. He's got, just so you understand, I'm not just building up some guy from the Stiebel who's a chazan on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. He's got 32 million views of this song and 332,000 subscribers. So if you haven't heard of him, go ahead and subscribe. I'm doing a better job for him than I am for my own channel. Okay, here we go. Sibat HaSibot is like maybe his #1 song.
תשיב בי את הרוח, תוריד ממני את הגשם, היה לי ים זמן לנוח, התרגלתי קצת בעצם, ובמרחב הפתוח, רואים באופק את השמש, אין ספק אני בטוח, בסוף עוד תתבהר הדרך, רק פתח לנו שערי אמונה, שערי הבנה, שאין לנו מלך, אלא אתה, סיבת הסיבות, עילת העילות, נורת העילות, ורק לך נאה להודות, על כל הימים וכל הלילות. מציאות אחרת, לפדות את אסירי הכוח, ולחודי הרשת, גם לקבל את השחור לבן, עם כל צבעי הקשת, משנה אבות פרק ג', חביב אדם שנברא בצלם, רק פתח לנו שערי החלה, שערי התחלה, כי אין לנו מלך, אלא אתה, סיבת הסיבות, עילת העילות, נורת העילות, ורק לך נאה להודות, על כל הימים וכל הלילות, רק אתה, סיבת הסיבות, עילת העילות, נורת העילות, ורק לך נאה להודות, על כל הימים וכל הלילות. בכל הלילות, רק אתה, ורק לך נאה.
This is a song praising God. Rak Ata, only you. Sibot hasibot. You are the reason.
על כל הימים וכל הלילות רק אתה.
I wanted to play it before giving the sense of what it was about so you could pick up on the sense of the sound itself. Only you are the source of all of our days and nights. This past week, Israel bombed the hell out of Syria. Syria has become not a direct combatant against Israel. The main problems, of course, have been Lebanon, Hezbollah, Gaza, Hamas, and on the Eastern Front, the so-called Palestine Authority. As you know, there is no such thing as Palestine. It's only Judea, Samaria, but they have an Arab thing there right now. And they're trying to make another Gaza out of that. And Israel's trying to, I guess, also make another Gaza out of that before they really become a Hamas-stan. So Syria has become a base for Iran, like to store all of their weapons as they ship weapons into Lebanon and other places. Syria has become a major source of where Iran kind of stores things and sends their major terror leaders to provide advice and counsel. And every so often, Israel has to bomb and kill some Iranians and destroy the weapons there. And they did a significant bombing earlier this week.
ידענו שזה עניין של זמן, אבל למרבה ההפתעה זה היה מהיר משחשבנו.
We knew it's just a matter of time, but to our surprise, it was a lot faster than we thought.
האיראנים והסורים מתחילים להבין כנראה מה קרה להם ביום ראשון בשעה 11:20 בלילה.
The Syrians are beginning to, and the Iranians are beginning to understand what happened to them on Sunday night around 11:20 p.m.
לילה. אז בהתבסס על דיווחים זרים בלבד שמתפרסמים הבוקר בערוץ של האופוזיציה הסורית, אנחנו יכולים לספר שלטענתם כוחות ישראלים מיוחדים
From what we're able to figure out, based on news reports on Syrian television this morning, namely Monday morning, we're able to start figuring out before the Israeli public military spokespeople sent out the word of what happened. We got our first news from Syrian TV, where they explained that Israel bombers and everything just blew up stuff in Syria, all these different installations.
דרו למתקן לייצור טילים וכטב"מים במסייף שבסוריה, מתקן שפעל תחת שם כיסוי של אתר מחקר.
This was a facility, for example, that was described as a research center.
כך זה היה. המתקן שנמצא כ6 קילומטר...
Syria, and the particular facility that was knocked out is about 6 kilometers southwestern in Syria, and it's heavily secured.
מטרים דרומית מערבית למסייף שבסוריה מאובטח היטב. ועל כן, כלי טייס רבים תקפו כל רכב או כוחות שניסו להגיע ולסייע לכל מי שהיה באתר.
And therefore, because it's so heavily secured, intensive rocket fire and missile fire from Israel to wipe out anybody who came to try to secure it.
המבצע החל בתקיפות מהאוויר גם באזורים נוספים בסוריה, על מנת לא למקד את תשומת הלב לאזור מסייף בלבד, ועל פי הדיווח, הפשיטה הקרקעית של לוחמי הקומנדו נמשכה כשעה.
And then beyond all the aerial bombing, Israeli commandos went down to the ground for more than an hour, the purpose of getting into the facility depth itself.
במהלכה, הכוחות נכנסו לעומקו של המתקן, בין השאר, גם לקחו מסמכים וציוד חשוב.
And while they were inside that facility, they grabbed a substantial amount of documents as well as supplies.
נוסף נטען שכוחות מיוחדים ניהלו חילופי אש עם מחבלים על הקרקע וחיסלו אותם.
There was exchange of fire while they were doing that on the ground with terrorists, Syrians, and they killed all of them. The Israelis killed all of them. And then after getting all the documents and supplies that they wanted, they then just completely blew up the entire facility.
ולבסוף, פוצצו את המתקן והרסו אותו לחלוטין. בכל הפעולה הנועזת חוסלו לפחות 20 מחבלים ועשרות נפצעו.
At least 20 Syrian terrorists were killed and at least and tens more were severely injured.
זה נשמע לקוח מסרט הוליוודי, וזה קרה ממש כאן מעבר לגבול בתחילת השבוע. בישראל לא מגיבים לדיווח ומפתיע מכך גם באיראן.
Israel is not commenting on the incident and Iran is not saying anything. But those who did this operation, they know exactly what happened.
ביצע את המבצע, ידע היטב מה קורה, והחליט להעביר מסר ברור, בעיקר לאיראן.
And the point especially was to send a message to Iran. Next, Sky News is out in Australia and England. It's part of the Rupert Murdoch communications network that in the United States includes Fox News, New York Post, and Wall Street Journal. And here you have on the right, Dani Danon, the new Israeli, and it formerly was also the Israeli ambassador at the UN. His English is not as good as the previous one. I wish they had people who spoke just simple, pure American English. It's as though they don't have anybody like that. They have people with heavy Israeli Hebrew accents, and as intelligent as he is and as high up as he is on the Likud party, really the ambassador to the UN ought to be someone who speaks solid American English like Netanyahu, Bennett, Michael Oren, even if their politics is not 100%. And there are plenty of people in Likud who do have the politics they want, but it's a fruit, it's a treat to be offered to someone who's paid his dues to get to be the UN ambassador. He's a really good guy. He stands for a lot of good things. I don't like his English. Anyway, here he's being interviewed by this reporter of Sky News, and he's explaining what's going on, and she makes a comment. So, in other words, what you people are doing to Hamas in Gaza is like what Hitler did to the Jews.
You know, ethnic cleansing, that's a word you used. If you read my article, I spoke about voluntary immigration.
I read that article. I did read that article, and I've just quoted from it.
Let me remind you that you spoke about ethnic cleansing. I spoke about voluntary immigration. And I think anyone in the world who voluntarily wants to move to another country should be eligible to do that.
Yes, the sort of voluntary relocation of many Jewish people during the Holocaust, I imagine. It is not voluntary relocation.
Shame on you for that comparison.
Let us please, let us
shameful anti-Semitic equation.
Let us please go to this objective.
I will not allow you to speak about the Holocaust.
You said earlier.
This is pure anti-Semitism, what you just said.
Mr. Danon,
the Holocaust to what's happening today in Gaza.
Mr. Danon, you talked about eradicating Hamas.
Shame on you talked for about this behavior. Shame on you for this equation.
In an interview earlier today with Israeli politician Dani Danon, a Sky News presenter made a comparison between Mr. Danon's comments on Israel's war with Hamas and the treatment of Jewish people in the Holocaust. Sky News recognised the complete inappropriateness of this comparison and the offensive nature of those comments. Sky News would like to apologise unreservedly for the comparison and to Mr. Danon personally.
And what this fellow, very, very nice, and what the fellow did not also say is that the woman was fired right after the interview. That's pretty cool. Sometimes we have stuff that disappoints us. That's pretty cool.
In the next couple of minutes, we're going to go down into the tunnel shaft 20 meters below where the hostages were murdered. The tunnel shaft was in a children's room, in a house. Those are the walls of this children's room. With
right, innocent Gaza civilians.
Snow White and Mickey Mouse on the wall. And a tunnel shaft where hostages were murdered downstairs, 20 meters below the ground. Hamas used those letters in the tunnel, and there was a hiding floor. All he needed to do is to break the floor and then go out through the children's room, inside to the street, and go back into the tunnel. This is how Hamas built this tunnel. The shaft goes down about 20 meters into the ground, using 4 separate ladders. There, it connects to a narrow tunnel with no rooms that is so low you can't stand up straight in it. The tunnel is about 120 meters long and ends in a blocked iron door. This short blocked part of the tunnel is where the hostages were held and murdered. We know that between 2 to 6 terrorists were here with the hostages. We are gathering all the stuff here for forensics, for intelligence. We can see magazines, an AK-47 magazine, chargers, all used by the terrorists, Quran books, a hairbrush. We need to check who used it. But there were women here in the tunnel. This is their blood. This is the blood of Hirsch, Eden, Carmel, Ori, Almog, and Alex. They were heroes, and they were here in this tunnel for weeks or days, we will find out. But they were here in this tunnel in horrific conditions, where there is no air to breathe, where you cannot stand. And they survived, but they were murdered by terrorists, and they're still hostages, 101. Some of them are alive in the same conditions, in tunnels like this, in Gaza. And we need to do everything we can, in all the means we can, to bring them back home alive. Why murder innocent people, women, young men? They were all in the music festival, and Carmel was at their home in the kibbutz. Why murder them in a tunnel after they survived 11 months in horrific condition? We pray and think in our hearts and minds, and we will keep on doing everything we can, everything to bring back home all the hostages.
Fox News alert, the Israeli military says it took out 3 Hamas terrorists in an airstrike in the Gaza humanitarian zone overnight. Trey Yinks joins us with a live look at what's happening in Tel Aviv. Trey.
Yeah, hey, Brian, good morning. Overnight, Israel launched airstrikes in the Mawasi humanitarian zone, killing dozens of Palestinians. You can see in this aftermath video people digging through the debris. This was an area filled with tents and civilians, though the Israeli military says they were targeting a Hamas command and control center. A statement provided to Fox News from the IDF says the head of Hamas's aerial unit was killed along with 2 other Hamas members. Currently, there are no diplomatic solutions to end the war inside Gaza. We're also tracking another development as the United Nations is set to vote next week on a resolution to end Israeli presence in the West Bank. The vote is largely symbolic, but illustrates the growing pressure Israel faces in the region. It also comes as the chief commander of the IRGC issued new threats against Israel this week, saying, quote, "The nightmare of Iran's inevitable response is shaking Israel day and night." The commander talking about Tehran's response to the killing of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh over the summer in the Iranian capital. Now, with Iranian military activity expanding, Israel's defense minister Yoav Gallant held a briefing yesterday saying his country is prepared and capable of striking any strategic goal inside Iran. Brian?
All right, Trey, just asking about some of the last moments of the hostages that were executed last week. It looks like they were fighting to the end. Have you heard those reports?
Yeah, really horrific reports coming out of Israel this week. And I spoke with a senior military official yesterday after attending that briefing at Israel's version of the Pentagon, the Kiryat. And that official said the Israelis intend to release some video that they captured inside the tunnel network beneath Gaza, where these 6 hostages were found. The bodies recovered and brought back into Israel. And the cabinet viewed this footage and they felt it's important for the public to see it. And again, they do intend on releasing it later this week.
All right.
Brian?
Thanks so much, Trey. Appreciate it. That's the latest from Israel. Now the latest on the same issue here in America.
That's the perfect segue.
Lawrence.
Thanks, Brian. So today, anti-Israeli protesters expected in Philadelphia ahead of the ABC presidential debate. in the swing state. This as students across America already on edge as protesters called to storm college campuses for a day of action. Our next guest, a Harvard University graduate, now sending this warning to the Democratic Party. Watch.
I'm a registered Democrat. I've only voted for Democrats. The Democratic Party has taken the Jewish vote and Jewish voters for granted for far too long. And come this November, I will be supporting, I will be endorsing, and I will be voting for President Trump.
That man is Shabbos Kestenbaum, and he joins us right now. Shabbos, why that urgent message to the Democratic Party?
Obviously,
I really tried being silent for 10 months.
Obviously, the proper pronunciation of his name is Shabbos.
Tried to appear bipartisan or nonpartisan, but the reality is the election is less than, 60 days away from now, and we have to make it clear that as Jewish voters, we've been taken for granted for far too long. And the issues of anti-Semitism on college campuses, the issues of releasing the American hostages, these are paramount to our community. And while it is true that Jewish Americans have typically voted for the Democratic Party, myself included, I registered to vote as a Democrat the day I turned 18, the reality is we need our party to understand that they are not making the necessary policy implementations or procedures that would win us over.
I've had different officials on, different representatives, and they continue to make the point to me that the party at large supports the Israeli people, the Jewish people, but these are just outliers. What would you say to those people?
Look, I wish they were right. We know that the squad has tripled in size. We know that 5 years ago, 10 Democrats skipped Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's address to Congress. This year it was 110, and they were all Democrats. So I wish I could say that this was simply relegated to a small minority. But the reality is, as I mentioned in my speech at the Republican Jewish Coalition last week, Republicans like the House Ways and Means Chairman Jason Smith or Congresswoman Virginia Fox of the Education Committee, they released public letters to universities saying, what will you do to enforce your policies to combat anti-Semitism? And not one Democrat signed off on it. Now, look, my congressman is Richie Torres. He's an incredible person. I will continue to vote for him for as long as he runs. But there's a reason why Richie Torres and John Fetterman were not at the Democratic National Convention. It's because our party is fundamentally different than the party of just 4 or 5 years ago.
They weren't welcome.
Exactly.
Shabbos, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Doocy.
Israeli protesters blocked a bridge in Tel Aviv Friday, demanding that the government do more to secure the release of hostages being held by Hamas. It comes as the region approaches the one-year mark of the war between Israel and Hamas and the bombardment of Gaza. Elizabeth Palmer joins us now from Tel Aviv. She just wrapped a tour of the Philadelphi Corridor with the IDF. Liz, what did you see?
Let's remember a moment what the map looks like. So let's just put that map up on the screen for a moment. Let's see. How do I put up the map? Make sure. There's the map. So there's the map of Gaza. And make sure I've got that okay. Let me just making sure that, okay. So here's a map of Gaza. And reminding you, this is Israel. This is where the kibbutzim are that were attacked on October 7th. This is like Sderot over here. And if you go all the way down, all the way down, all the way down to the Egypt border, this border is the Philadelphi Corridor. The Philadelphi Corridor. And that is where through any number of tunnels, Hamas has been smuggling endless amounts of weapons, and they smuggle in people and terrorists. Egypt, under the terms of its treaty with Israel, was obligated to prevent this, pretty much to seal off this border. They completely failed all the time, whether on purpose or because their guards accepted bribes or were threatened to be killed. But that's what's going on with that. And while we're doing maps really quickly for a moment, let's refresh our memories of, so that's Gaza, and that's the Philadelphia Corridor. Let's remind ourselves what Israel is, the basics. The yellow is Israel from up to 1967. The light brown or tan is what the anti-Semites call the West Bank, and what we call Judea in the south and Samaria in the north. Jerusalem is right on the border. So Eastern Jerusalem was part of what was liberated in 1967. So Israel liberated Judea and Samaria in 1967, and no one had rights to it till then. Jordan, this is Jordan, on the other side of the Jordan River. Jordan had occupied it in 1948 when the British left Palestine. All of this is Palestine, including Jordan, by the way. When the British left Palestine, which was the name the Romans gave it, and the name of the British mandate after World War I when Britain was given it, just as France was given Lebanon and Syria, and Morocco and Yemen, I guess, and England was given Jordan and Israel, namely Palestine, and they were given Egypt, and they were given some other places. Before that, before World War I, Turkey occupied this area. Turkey was on the losing side in World War I, and World War I ended with the winners taking land and imposing all kinds of monetary reparations on Germany, which is what led to World War II. And when the land was given over, so Palestine was given to England, and then there was a two-state solution where, to make peace, 78% of Palestine was given to the Arabs, and it was called Jordan, and 22% of Palestine was given to the Jews, and it was called still Palestine. In 1948, when England left, Jordan took this area that they called the West Bank. It was West Bank of the Jordan River, part of Jordan. So it was never an independent Arab country ever. Before Jordan took it in 48, it was part of England's Palestine. Before that, it was part of Turkey, going back to the time of Rome. There never was an Arab country there. It was known as Judea and Samaria because it had no other name. So anyway, to refresh your memories, we cover some of this. When Israel, they talk about Israel conducting raids and attacks now in the West Bank, that's here. If this area is not secure for Israel, can you see how close that is to the Mediterranean? They'll be able, if Gaza, this is Gaza. If from Gaza, they can shoot rockets that could hit Jerusalem, what do you think from Judea, Samaria, from the West Bank? The Arabs can easily put the whole country under a shadow of rocket fire. Haifa, Tel Aviv, Yerushalayim, Beersheba. That's pretty much the end. So that's why Israel's in Samaria and Judea. While we're doing the maps, back to this. So Israel took the media on a tour of the Philadelphi Corridor. I'm sorry, that's Gaza. It's only this. It's this little piece of the border. This is Israel's greater border with Egypt, and the Philadelphi Corridor is this little piece there. And Israel's sealing it off because Egypt doesn't. Either they won't or they can't. So Israel declared this week that they finally dismantled the final brigade, the last Hamas brigade in Rafiah, which is this area. This is Rafiah, the last part of southern Gaza. The section that Kamala Harris said she's looked at all the maps and Israel cannot go there because there are 1 million Arabs, and Israel will end up slaughtering 1 million Arabs if they go there, because she's looked at the maps and there's nowhere else for the Arabs to go. And as we all know, Israel went in there and all the Arabs went out of Rafiah, and Israel wiped out the Hamas brigades, and they didn't kill any Arabs at all. There was one bomb that landed in Rafiah that hit a Hamas arsenal, a weapons arsenal, and the arsenal exploded, and some of the shrapnel killed people. But other than that, Israel killed no civilians in Rafiah, despite what Kamala Harris had said, that they'll kill 1 million. And they brought the press for one day this past week to see that the military danger of Hamas in Rafiah and the Philadelphia Corridor basically is finished. The brigade has been wiped out, and Israel is saying, we will not give up our control of the Philadelphia Corridor. We're not going to let more stuff back in. So that's the bigger picture.
The Philadelphia Corridor is kind of a code name for the strip of Gaza that runs along Egypt, so the very southern bit. And we went in there with the Israeli Defense Forces, the 167th Division. They wanted to show us that this area of enormously fierce fighting against Hamas is now secured. In fact, tonight they are announcing that they have dismantled the Hamas brigade, which was fighting in there. You can see the cost, though, everywhere. What used to be a bustling town around the main border crossing into Egypt is now really lumps of concrete, rebar, dust, desert, and silent. I mean, nothing is moving. Every now and again, we heard some gunfire.
You notice how they never point out that all that is true because Hamas chooses to embed itself within the civilian population. They never tell you that.
But the Hamas fighters are nowhere to be seen. Israel says that not only has it blown up 8 miles of tunnels with many miles to go, because it was a labyrinth under Rafah, but they also killed 2,000 Hamas fighters in this offensive. For the moment, it seems to be over, and everybody is waiting to see if there's any movement on that ceasefire that we were just hearing about. So the Israeli Defense Forces are securing the area and waiting.
All right, Elizabeth Palmer for us from Tel Aviv. Thanks, Liz.
AFP is Air France Press or something like that. It's French. It's like the French Associated Press. Images of the Philadelphi Corridor shot during this embed with the Israeli army. You can see Israel now has paved along parallel to the wall of the Philadelphia. That wall is, the other side of that wall is Egypt. And Israel came in and they paved so that their guard and their vehicles now can patrol the Philadelphia Corridor. You're hearing wind, you're not hearing shell fire. Now you hear shell fire. That's one of the tunnels. One side is Gaza, Philadelphia Corridor. Other side is Egypt. You can see it's right at the gate there, right at the wall.
It is connected laterally, made of tunnels that Hamas used to operate in Rafah.
A gente está a poucos metros do corredor de Filadélfia.
In the background, you hear some voices. All the media, all the world media were brought for this tour. And then one more of these.
An AP reporter was one of a few journalists brought by the Israeli military Friday into southern Gaza. As soon as they got into Gaza, the reporters observed destruction as far as the eye could see. There are buildings completely collapsed. There's hardly a building that hasn't sustained major damage. The sound of drones buzzing in the air is ever present, and the sound of shooting is present every few minutes. The goal of the Israeli military was to show reporters 2 tunnels in the area. One where they say they found the bodies of 6 hostages, including 23-year-old Israeli-American hostage.
Notice how she said that, where they say they found the bodies. She could have said where they found the bodies, but instead, where they say they found the bodies. That's how they report. Also, these are Yortzeit candles, 6 Yortzeit candles for the 6 who were found.
Hirsch Goldberg, Poland, and another tunnel in the Philadelphi Corridor region. Now that's significant because the Philadelphi Corridor is one of the few things holding up a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin
Again, you have to learn how to understand the media when they talk. So she says the Philadelphia Corridor is holding up the ceasefire, not Hamas holding up the ceasefire. The Philadelphia Corridor is holding up the ceasefire. You listen, some of us perceived what happened at that debate the other night, the way that it's not overt, but it's subtle, but they just give the public a false view of everything, even when it sounds like they're just reporting the facts. Israel says they found people there.
Netanyahu says he wants to keep Israeli troops in the Philadelphi Corridor, this strip of land in southern Gaza, because he says that's where Hamas is smuggling arms in through tunnels underneath the ground. The visit was a rare chance for international journalists to see the level of destruction wrought by Israel's 11-month offensive on Gaza inside the strip. Israel's military has tightly controlled access to the strip by international journalists, and you're only able to go in with a military escort.
In Amman, the Jordanian capital, hundreds marched down.
Okay, so here's what happened with this one. Also this past week. On the boundary, let's take this off a moment so that I can show you this part of it. Let's move this out of the way. Okay. So here's Israel. And here's Jordan. And the way to get from Israel into Jordan, one thing is the Allenby Bridge. It's a bridge, that's the main way a lot of Arabs go through into Jordan, or if they want to, let's say, fly out or something like that. That's one of the main passageways. And some Arab at this internationally recognized peace zone for a free passageway, some Arab shot 3 Israelis dead this past week. It was a big, big thing. And the story is that while it was an international incident back in Jordan, the civilians, the innocent civilians in Jordan, were dancing and celebrating that some guy murdered 3 Israelis. It was just like a peaceful bridge crossing.
Downtown to salute the Jordanian terrorist who murdered these 3 Israeli civilian workers at the Allenby Bridge before being shot and killed by Israeli security forces. More from ILTV's Devo Klein.
The Jordanians celebrated the murders with fireworks and by offering sweets while hailing the 39-year-old terrorist truck driver who came from a Bedouin tribe in southern Jordan.
جاء رد عفوي ليقول لنتنياهو وللصهاينة إن كنتم تعتقدون أن الأردن خاسرة سهلة ضعيفة فأنتم واهمون وهذا إنذار أولي وإن صبر الأردنيين بدأ ينفد فلا تختبروا صبرهم والأيام قادمة.
According to initial indications, the gunman arrived at the Israeli side of the border crossing after passing a security check on the Jordanian and Israeli side. Jordanian officials say they are investigating the shooting at the crossing, also known as the King Hussein Bridge.
وزارة الداخلية أن الجهات الرسمية باشرت التحقيق في حادثة إطلاق النار التي وقعت على الجانب الآخر من جسر الملك حسين.
Jordan says it's temporarily closed the bridge. Jordanian officials transported standard travelers back to Amman after Israel closed all of its land border crossings with Jordan.
Israel has also been on that third front besides Gaza and north with Hezbollah. They've been in what they call the West Bank. That's Samaria, northern so-called West Bank is Samaria. The city of Jenin is their main terror nest, and Israel's been really carrying out raids significantly in Jenin in Samaria. Okay, here's what this one's about. I'll get to this in a moment. But for this, we have to go to this. I have 3 Twitter things, or rather TikTok things, or whatever it is, that I wasn't able to load into the main playlist that just goes smoothly down. So I have to go out for a minute for three things we're going to do out of TikTok. And first one, here they go. This is an interview in England. Let me just get this thing going. I haven't done this before, but there were three of them. I really wanted to share it. Okay, here we go. Number one. This brother was telling me, this is in England, transcribed by memory. This brother was telling me, Sheikh, I don't see now that our situation is better than before. He's talking about in England.
He was telling me, Sheikh, I don't see now.
British Islamic scholar and jurist, Al-Haddad. And this is from the Fatah Institute on YouTube, September 26th, but I just found it.
Now that our situation is better than before. I said, no, our situation in the UK in particular and in the West in general is far better than our situation 10 years ago. I said to him, look at the number of huffaz now. Look at the number of masajid. Look at the number of Islamic institutions. Look now, who imagines that we have Islam channel, Iman channel, Iqra TV, all in the UK. This was not there 20 years ago, alhamdulillah, by the grace of Allah Jalla wa'ala. Look at, mashallah, our brothers and sisters. If you go outside, you think that you are in a second Afghanistan, but you are in Londonstan.
You are in Londonstan. Let that sink in. Let that sink in.
Okay, so it is really amazing, overwhelming. So don't ever, my brothers and sisters, don't look at yourself as a subjugated minority. We are the leaders of the humanity, and we should look at ourselves as we have something to offer.
Okay, there's that, number one. Number two, this was during the Olympics, just the other week. The Israeli soccer team was playing Paraguay, an Olympic soccer game between Israel and Paraguay, and it's at the beginning of the game where they play the two national anthems. So first they play the Paraguay national anthem, and then they play Hatikva. And while Hatikva is going on, fans of the Paraguay team are doing Hitler salutes and screaming things that like Heil Hitler. Let's just get this set up. This is about 13 seconds, so it's quick, but it's important and worth the time. Here we go. So that's number two. Now for the third. For this one, I have to ask you to pause a moment. I have to ask you to think. You are at a street demonstration for Israel. You're at a pro-Israel demonstration. It's nice. Yay, Israel. Boo, Palestine. And across the street, there's a maniacal anti-Semite screaming across the street, down with Israel, up with Palestine. You people have killed, murdered 200,000 innocent civilians. 200,000. Even the lying Gazan Arab Health Ministry claims it's no more than 40,000, so to speak. And we know that 20,000 are terrorists. So it's no more than 20,000 if you believe the terrorist health ministry. And if you even believe 20,000 have died, that's to assume no one died of cancer or lung disease or heart disease or a car accident or old age in the last 9 months, that all the deaths are only from Israel. But anyway, you murdered genocide, 200,000. And you're just a pro-Israel demonstration. Can't say you're minding your own business. You're saying, we're pro-Israel, yay for Israel. And there's this guy screaming and yelling, and you're thinking to yourself, Meshuggah. And then all of a sudden, he charges across the street against traffic with blood on his eyes. And he's charging at you. And he's going for the old man in the group. He's like 20s or 30s, and he's going for a guy with white hair. And he jumps him, and he grabs him by the neck to strangle him. So I want you to think a moment, wow. And I want you to just pause a moment. What would you do? I would think, do you call the police? You can't talk. He's got you on the throat. Do you hope that other people in demonstration will come to your assistance? What do? You fight back, you're 60, 70 years old. You got hit from nowhere. What do? What do? This happened this past week in Boston, in Newton. Oy. Crazy world, huh? Get that off the screen, and let's go to this. Let's make sure we have the sound up. Okay. Let's get this at the beginning. Oop, that was the Paraguayans. Okay. And here we go with this. Okay, just a second. This is the anti-Semite. And this is the sound. And here we go. This is this week in Newton, Massachusetts, near Boston.
We're sick. I'm sick. You are defending genocide.
Genocide?
Yes.
But you are so stupid.
Over 200,000.
You're so stupid.
Over 200,000.
You're stupid.
You got that? Over 200,000. He goes against traffic. He's not even looking.
You are sick.
We're sick?
I'm sick. You are defending genocide.
Genocide?
Yes.
But you are so stupid.
Over 200,000.
You're so stupid. You're stupid. It's another man. Yo! Oh my God! Whoa!
Grab my pistol.
Oh my God!
Grab my pistol.
Oh my
Stop.
God!
Get off him.
What is
Stop.
that?
Get off him.
Yo! Let me back up! Yo!
Where's my pistol?
Oh my God!
Grab my pistol.
Oh my God!
Grab my
He would
pistol.
fall out of the old man's pocket.
Grab my pistol. Grab my pistol. Stop. Get off him. Stop. Get off him. Call the cops. You are sick.
In the Boston Globe. Just make this a little bit bigger. Try to make it a little bigger. Okay. Donations pour in for demonstrator accused of shooting man during pro-Israel rally. The guy shot him. He shot him. Good for him. Social media platform X suspended an account belonging to the Newton man wounded by gun. It actually a rare situation where everything is right. You would expect they would suspend the shooter and they would have a headline mourning for the guy who got shot. He's still alive, by the way. There's the shooter. He's not Jewish. That's the difference. A Jew would start whining and would start waiting and calling for the police. And a good, patriotic, non-Jewish American would just shoot him. Good for him. Scott Hayes has traveled across eastern Massachusetts in recent months and documented his interactions with pro-Palestinian demonstrators on social media, sometimes describing the participants as anti-Semitic or terrorist lovers, according to his X account. Caleb Gannon used Instagram to rail against U.S. government support of Israel in its war against Hamas, criticizing both nations, the United States and Israel, as evil and calling for their immediate dissolution. On Thursday evening in Newton, the two men who shaped online identities to reflect their opposing views of the Israel-Hamas war clashed in person. Authorities allege Ganin, 31, attacked Hayes as he and others participated in a pro-Israel rally. And Hayes, in turn, shot Ganin. Hayes has pleaded not guilty, and his lawyer has said his client acted in self-defense. You saw the video. On the internet, the fallout from the violent confrontation was dramatic. The social media platform X has suspended the account belonging to Ganin. That's the crazy guy that attacked. Meanwhile, a GoFundMe campaign launched Thursday to support Hayes had received more than $210,000 in donations as of Saturday evening toward a goal of $270. The fundraising page, etc. Even though Scott is not Jewish, he's been defending the Jewish people and its right for self-determination and governance all across Boston, its surroundings, and all around New England and the U.S. Reached Sunday afternoon in his apartment in Framingham, Hayes, a military veteran, declined to comment. No answer on Friday or Saturday at the home listed for Ganin. And so and so forth. He's still alive. And where did he end up? Beth Israel, Deaconess Hospital. Ended up at Beth Israel, the guy that got shot. And so on and so forth. The father of the guy that shot him said, my son is mentally unstable, and he's been hyper-focused on Hamas. Okay. And so on and so forth. The guy that got shot, a short video of him singing and strumming on an acoustic guitar. I don't want to be American no more. I don't want to give my vote to no one. Okay. God willing, he'll see it through. So anyway, this guy, Hayes, has been a proud Zionist. The Post showed a photo of him with an American flag in one hand, an Israeli flag in the other. He wore a baseball cap for 6 hours, firearms manufacturer, and a T-shirt reading, I am a Zionist. Okay. Anyway, I personally went on this guy's GoFundMe page. Let me just get ready for this. So I went to this guy's GoFundMe page, and they've already raised $230,000 towards the $270,000 that they believe they're going to need for his legal defense. And last night before I went to sleep, I gave $250 as well. I think that's amazing that this guy, and I'm just going to play this briefly in honor of this military veteran who stood up for Israel and shot that guy. Thank God. A lot of people talk about the squad and about how bad things are. The majority of Americans stand with Israel. The polls show it. The surveys show it. The majority of Americans stand with Israel. And this guy's facing charges and $250,000 in legal fees standing for Israel. Good for him. Good Scott. Meanwhile, you might not have heard about this, but 10,000 rallied for Israel in Montreal. Eden Golan is a significant pop singer in Israel now.
with Israel accused of committing genocide in Gaza.
This is from Al Jazeera, the news service that's sponsored by Qatar. Israel just banned it in Israel. They got rid of they put Al Jazeera off, but this is Al Jazeera.
Gaza, thanks to US weapons, political support, and funding. A lot of people are asking, just why is the US so staunchly pro-Israel? Well, the answer isn't all that simple, but a big part of the conversation is a particular lobby group called the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, or AIPAC. Its mission: to push pro-Israel policies in the US and get politicians to vote for them. It's donated to most of the current members of the US Congress, funding 342 out of all 535. Records show that it's the biggest spending campaign group when it comes to representing a foreign interest in domestic US politics, and AIPAC is spending big on getting its favoured candidates elected. Take this tweet about the Democratic congressional primary in Illinois. AIPAC is taking credit for the defeat of candidate Keena Collins. Collins is a community organizer and lifelong anti-gun violence activist. She also called Israel's war on Gaza genocide. AIPAC spent hundreds of thousands of dollars funding attack ads to kill her campaign, which she lost. So how did AIPAC become the most prominent foreign affairs lobby group in the US? It fundraises through glittering annual galas where both Democrats and Republicans scramble to secure speaking spots.
The U.S.-Israel relationship is special and strong.
After all, AIPAC prides itself on being nonpartisan. AIPAC boasts a long list of rich backers who it traditionally uses to funnel money to its preferred candidates and also to donate to pro-Israel Washington think tanks to influence Middle East policy. Remember when former US President Donald Trump recognized Jerusalem as the Israeli capital and moved the embassy there? Or when he tore up the Iran nuclear deal? Yes, AIPAC. Or the $300 billion in mostly military aid the US has sent Israel since its founding? Also AIPAC. Its army of lobbyists has unfettered access to officials in Congress. This is where it has traditionally focused its energy and money. You might have seen video of pro-Palestinian activists talking to AIPAC lobbyists.
While you're having your lunch, just think about the children in Gaza who are starving.
AIPAC also bankrolls politicians' trips to Israel.
Hello from Israel!
Here are 24 House Democrats last year taking in the sights. Archaeological ruins, the old city, supposed Hezbollah smuggling tunnel.
It's pretty surreal to actually go down there.
Well, some American voters might think it also surreal that AIPAC's most recent winning strategy pits Democrat against Democrat. It spent $50 million on the 2022 midterms, including more than $17 million in direct donations, and it spent double on Democrats than on Republicans.
Thank you, AIPAC.
It successfully helped defeat 13 candidates who AIPAC claims would have undermined the US-Israel relationship. Don't take my word for it. It's all written here in AIPAC's Political Achievements fact sheet. It's expected to spend $100 million on this year's election. But it isn't acting alone. It set up a big money affiliate called the United Democracy Project, which also spent money to defeat Keena Collins in Illinois and is now funding attack ads against members of the Squad, the young progressive group of Democrats, which includes the sole Palestinian-American member of Congress, Rashida Tlaib. In November, 22 of her fellow Democrats joined Republicans in voting to censure Tlaib because she used the pro-Palestinian phrase, from the river to the sea. At least 18 of those Democrats received donations from AIPAC. As the Israel lobby slogan goes, being pro-Israel is good policy and good politics.
The point of the Al Jazeera report is to get their viewers angry. But man, that made me feel real good. Okay, here we go. Here we go. We just finished the Olympics in Paris. Every cycle, every 4 years, right after the Olympics in whatever city it takes place, there are the Paralympics for people with handicaps, severe handicaps, in the same city, with the same facilities already having been constructed. So you may not have gotten a lot of coverage here in America, thought about it, but we've just finished the Paralympics of the people who are handicapped. And Israel cleaned up in the Paralympics. Tragically, there are people from Sahel who have been injured at war and other things. And then there are people born with situations, and they won 17 awards, including a few gold medals. I'm going to show you from 2 of the gold medalists. We're going to close today's program with one of them that I can't even, I have to tell you about him now because I start to cry when I watch him. And not because of his situation, but you'll get it. You'll have tears in your eyes too when you watch him. Not because of his physical situation. And this is the other guy. This guy was interviewed this week on Israeli TV. And he blew me away. I think he's going to blow you away too. He lost both his arms. He lost them when he was 13, not at war, but in a terrible tragedy. His family lived in the Golan Heights area. And there was an electric room. And the door was open. He walked into the soccer ball, rolled into that room, and he got the ball and he came into contact with a cable. And he's lucky he's alive, and he lost both arms. And so he went into, I don't know if that's called Taekwondo or whatever it's called, the thing where you kick the other guy. And he won the gold medal. And this interview, I'll translate for you. I mean, if this doesn't blow you away, that's okay. Doesn't have to blow you away, but it blew me away. Here we go. At least, not all 10 minutes, but at least 1 or 2, 3 things. Just, wow. Here we go. So it starts with a clip from him winning.
האחרונות, ולאסף יסור יש מדליית זהב פראלימפית. הוא אלוף פראלימפי. ג'קי צ'אן מגיע עם הקמע, מעניק אותו לאלוף.
So just you catch it.
האחרונות, ולאסף יסור.
There he is, he knocked him out. We have a winner, we have a gold medalist, a winner in the Olympics, and then it goes, then the clip gets edited over to the playing of the end of Hatikva, and as they're playing Hatikva, the guy puts on a kippah.
הוא אלוף פראלימפי. ג'קי צ'אן מגיע עם הקמע, מעניק אותו לאלוף הפראלימפי. חיבוק.
תודה רבה, תודה להוריי שתמכו בי
Thank you.
וואו.
חמר, תחזיר לו את זה.
וואו.
בוא נזמין אותו, גבירותיי ורבותיי, קבלו את אסף יסור! וואו!
Here we are in the talk show. Everybody, welcome this guy.
בואנה, גיבור. מה המצב?
גולדן בוי.
איזה גולדן בוי.
The golden boy.
אתה רוצה להעניק לי אותה? כן, עוד פעם, אני רוצה להעניק לך אותה.
Here's his gold medal.
ענוג. פעם ראשונה מג'קי צ'אן, פעם שנייה פה באולפן. עשית פדיחה.
The Jackie Chan, they're saying the Jackie Chan of Israel, the Jackie Chan of Israel.
ג'קי צ'אן שמעתי. ג'קי צ'אן, בא להגיש לו את המדליה, הוא לא יודע מי זה. באמת שלא ידע.
The guy's saying basically he's a Jew from Golan Heights. He'd never heard of Jackie Chan. He thought it's the name of a...
אחר כך אני רואה פרסומים וזה ג'קי צ'אן, חשבתי על סטלבט.
Thought it was the name of a salad.
תשמע, אתה יודע, הגעת לפה לאולפן היום, ואמרו לנו במסדרונות אנשים, הדבר הכי מרגש בשחייה שלך, זה שעלית עם כיפה. שעלית עם כיפה.
I want you to know that I've talked to people, and the thing that people are most emotional about here in Israel is that you put on a kippah at the playing of the Hatikva.
היה לי חשוב. בבוקר, כמו בכל בוקר של תחרות, אני מארגן...
It was very important for me. In the morning, like every morning, I put on my kippah and I put on my tefillin.
הדברים, מניח תפילין, ואני זוכר שאני מקפל את הכיפה, זו פעם ראשונה שאני עולה לפודיום עם כיפה. רגע, עצור רגע. מקפל, שם בתים. רגע, עצור אותך.
Wait. How do you put on tefillin?
No. איך מניחים תפילין כשיש...
He feels awkward how to say it. He doesn't want to say, how do you put on tefillin if you don't have any? So he's saying, like, how do you put on tefillin if you, you know.
חצי יד. איך?
says, well, half a hand.
עיקרון המצווה היא לברך ולמתוח.
אוקיי.
I say a bracha, I put on what I can. Deoraita, according to Torah, that's enough. According to Rabbanan, you put on more.
זה דאורייתא, והשאר פה על היד זה דרבנן. אז אני מותח, קושר, עושה שתי סיבובים, מכניס מתחת ושם תפילין שלו.
אמן. אז רגע, ובחזרה לכיפה, זאת אומרת, לא היה עוד ספורטאי שעולה עם כיפה
אני לא זוכר, והיה לי חשוב, אני זוכר, אני מניח את התפילין ואני אומר...
It was very, very important to me. I remember to be able to put on tefillin and to put on that kippah.
היום בפודיום, היום בערב, אני עולה עם הכיפה הזאת לפודיום.
Like today, I'm on the podium. I got to do this.
ואני מקפל אותה ואני שם אותה בתיק של התחרות.
בזכות זה, אתה עלית, אתה מבין שבזכות זה זכית?
תדע לך לאורך כל היום, כאילו כל הזמן התפללתי וכל הזמן ביקשתי וכל הזמן.
מדהים.
All the time I was praying to God, all the time I was asking, please.
אני מוריד את זה ברשותכם, בסדר?
תוריד. תשמע, אני אגיד לך משהו שחשבתי.
מה זה, לא הבנתי, מדליסט אולימפי רוצה להוריד את המדליה.
די, זה כבד, אתה יודע, זה 600 גרם.
So he starts taking off the gold medal. And they're saying, no, you're a medalist, keep the medal on. He says, no, it's heavy.
טוב, תקשיב רגע, אני אגיד לך משהו. אני בעיניי, החשיבות של הזכייה שלך, כן, ולא שאני חס וחלילה מזלזל בזכייה של כל אחד מהספורטאים, היא בעיניי יותר גדולה.
I think, in my opinion, what you did, I don't want to take anything away from any of our other athletes, but you are the most important. What you did is just, in my eyes, bigger than anything I've seen.
יש משהו במה שאתה עושה שהוא מעבר לסתם ספורטאי, לא סתם, חס וחלילה, אבל...
What you did is beyond athletics.
ספורטאי שזוכה, אתה נותן כל כך הרבה תקווה לכל כך הרבה ילדים, אתה יודע, בני נוער.
You've given so much hope to so many children and youths who have their own handicaps.
שסובלים מנכויות כאלה ואחרות, שוואלה, אפשר להגיע לטופ של הפסגה, בלי ידיים, מה שנקרא.
Without hands.
אתה עושה לי טוב כשאתה אומר את זה.
אתה מרגיש את זה, ואתה מרגיש את השליחות הזאת, שאתה עושה את זה, אתה חושב על זה?
Do you perceive that you're like a representative, an emissary to people in that situation?
אני כשאני נפצעתי, אחרי שנפצעתי בגיל 13, המון אנשים באו לבקר אותי בבית החולים, לתת כוח, לחזק.
You know, after this happened to me at age 13, and I found myself in the hospital, people from all over the place had heard about it and came to the hospital to encourage me to get better, to make a life. And people I didn't know from all over came to encourage me.
יש כזה מנהג לבוא ולתת כוח, ואני זוכר שהמון אנשים מרמת הגולן, בכלל אנשים שאני לא מכיר, הגיעו.
These were people from all over the place, from the Golan Heights, people from all over Israel, people I don't know. They came to the hospital to encourage me.
אני זוכר שאבא שלי היה תופס אותי, אומר לי, יבוא יום ואתה תצטרך לתת בחזרה לעם הזה.
My father said to me at some point during my hospitalization that when you get out of here, you've got to give something back to this country. The way that people are treating you, coming from all over the place. You have to give something back to Israel.
אני מרגיש לא שאני, זה הזכות, באמת, זה זכות בשבילי, וזה הדבר הכי ענק בשבילי לעלות לזירות ולתחרויות בינלאומיות בעולם.
And for me, it's therefore an even greater merit. I see it as a merit that I've been given the opportunity to compete on international forums, with the...
שהדגל עליי, ולסיים את הערב
with the flag, with the Israel flag on me, and to...
שהתקווה מתנגנת.
איך נפצעת? תספר על הפציעה קצת.
I asked him how he got hurt, and I told you a little bit about that already, so we'll jump ahead a little.
קבל זץ.
22 volts. He got hit by 22,000 volts.
כן, הבית ההכרה.
חתיכת זץ.
מה זה?
שלך נשארת בחיים? זה נס.
איזה חיוך.
Miracle you're even alive. And his response is he's laughing. He laughs. Going, what a laugh. You laugh like you're so happy.
כי מה, יש ברירה, נו מה.
Story with such a laugh and a smile, I mean, 22,000 volts.
עזוב,
זה רוח,
אמיתי עכשיו, זה קרה לפני 9.5 שנים. יש לי...
It happened 9.5 years ago.
את המשפחה המדהימה שלי שביחד איתה עברנו אותם.
I have this wonderful family, and together with them, we
מסע הזה, חתמנו
gone through this adventure, this journey.
את הפרק ההוא, ואנחנו ממשיכים הלאה, אני זוכר.
We've sealed, and that chapter is closed, it's sealed. And now we're going on with good stuff.
שאבא שלי בתקופות בבית החולים, היה ניגש אליי, אומר לי, איך טרוף את העולם כאילו, אנחנו לא נעצרים שם, ואנחנו לא גם, המחשבה לא הייתה, בוא נצא מהפציעה הזאת, כי זה לא מספיק רק לצאת, קיבלנו פה הזדמנות כאילו. מה זה ננצח? נטרוף את העולם כאילו.
בלי פציעה, שנייה, בלי הפציעה.
Now the questioner says, if you had not been injured this way, would you have gone on to become an athlete?
היית גם כן מין achiever כזה, אולי...
אתה מדבר לפני כאילו?
כן, אני אומר, אם אתה צריך לעשות ככה דלתות מסתובבות, אחורה. היית חושב שגם היית...
Let's turn the doors around. What if you had not been injured? Would you have developed this kind of personality of wanting to overcome?
אתה רוצה לכבוש את העולם, להגיע הכי רחוק, או שמשהו בפציעה ובשנה כזאת, או בשנים כאלה, פתאום אומר לך, לא, 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 אני לא מסיים את החיים האלה בלי להראות להם.
וואלה, זאת שאלה ממש טובה, אני יכול להגיד לך...
זה אני אגב כתבתי לו.
כל השאלות הטובות זה בטוח.
אני כתבתי.
It's a really good question. I would have done it, I'm glad you asked it, and my personality is that I would be anyway that way.
תמיד הייתי שפטן, תמיד
That's the way I am.
להכי גבוה שיש, והכי גדול שיש, ותמיד עוד יעד, ועוד חלום, ולא להסתפק, ולא... תמיד הייתי ככה, אבל אמרתי לכם שהפציעה תגיע ונתנה סוג של הזדמנות לעשות דברים גדולים, משמעותיים.
אבל
הטקוונדו הגיע אחרי הפציעה.
אחרי הפציעה.
אחרי הפציעה, כן.
איך, מאיפה זה מגיע שאתה אומר...
סוגרים ילד בן 13, 8 חודשים בבית חולים, רוצה איך מכות.
רוצה להרוג את העולם.
That's a picture of him when he was in the hospital and this is...
ועצבי, וואו.
תגיד רגע, ואתה, אחרי הזכייה, אתה מתחבק בדגל גולני? מה הסיפור עם גולני?
נכון.
וואו. קודם כל אלן גולני, נתחיל בזה. יש לי 2 אחים לוחמים בסיירת, שפיצים, באמת שפיצים.
I have 2 brothers that are fighting in the army.
שבאו כל הדרך עד לגרנד פלה בפריז כדי להיות איתי.
באמת? שוחררו לזה?
Family came to Paris to watch me and...
איזה יופי.
הפכנו למות כדי שיצאו ויהיו איתנו ברגע הזה.
אלה 2 לוחמים בסרט, אתה לא חוזר בלי זהב.
כן. המ"פ שלו אומר לי, אין בעיה, אני משחרר אותו, אבל דיר בלק, אתה חוזר בלי הזהב. אז פחדתי, אתה מבין?
אז כל המשפחה...
I would cut it short a little, but for the extra 2-3 minutes, his personality, the charm and the good nature and the optimism and the happiness, and think of so many people who complain about so much, it's just...
אתה איתך שם?
כן, כי...
הנה אתם כולם. איזה יופי, איזה משפחה.
משפחה יפה.
יש לי שאלה, לוקחים אתכם, זאת אומרת, יש באמת הרבה אנשים שנמצאים בצרה.
כן.
מאז ה7 באוקטובר.
I mean, look, now there are a lot of people in the country that have certain problems, and after October 7.
לוקחים אתכם להרצאות, עובדים פסיכולוגיים.
Does the government take you around to make speeches and encourage people?
עובדים סוציאליים לוקחים ספורטאים.
Work with any of the psychologists or social workers?
אולימפיים כאלה, להרים אנשים מהרצפה במצב שלהם.
Help raise people up from the floor in light of their situation.
לשמוע סיפור כזה?
זה מתחבר למה שאמרתי לכם קודם, שמה שאבא שלי אמר לי שאני צריך לתת בחזרה. תכף חצי סיפור כזה קטן בכמה שניות.
Well, that ties in with what I was telling you earlier, that I kind of, from my father, was inspired by my father that I have to give back to the country for all the goodness.
כשהתחילה המלחמה אני הייתי בסין, בגרנד פרי של סין, מאוד יוקרתי, חיכיתי הרבה זמן להגיע לתחרות הזאת, והייתי אמור להתחרות ביום שני, בשבת מה קרה? התחילה המלחמה, אני מתקשר למשפחה שלי ששומרת שבת, תפתחו את הטלוויזיה, יש מלחמה, אני בעצם ככה מודה להם, אח שלי באותו רגע עולה על האוטו, אבא שלי מקפיץ אותו, והוא הולך להילחם ביישובים, בקיבוצים.
When he heard about it, when October 7th came, it was Shabbat, he couldn't answer the phone, so when he heard about it, he was in China at the time, and the next day, he called his family as soon as Shabbat was over. I'm hearing stuff went on in Israel, what's going on? Yes, Israel's at war. Members of the family are going down to Gaza to fight, and he made a commitment. I'm going to be in the Paralympics and I'm going to represent Israel and I'm going to bring pride to Israel.
סביב לעזה, ואני מתקשר בערב להורים ושואל מה לעשות עם התחרות, כאילו זה עוד יומיים, ולא רציתי בכלל, ואמא שלי לוקחת את הטלפון ואומרת, אתה תתחרה, אח שלך הלך להילחם בשמה, ואתה הולך להילחם ככה.
He had thought for a moment, maybe I should not participate in the Olympics. Who am I to be playing games and sport while the country's at war? And my mom got on the phone and said, you absolutely have to compete now and you have to do this for Israel.
ואם אתה מתחרה, תנצח ותביא את הזהב ותנגן את התקווה.
הצלחת?
אמא אמרה.
אפשר להגיד.
וכשחזרתי לארץ, נורא רציתי ללכת
Bring home gold and sing התקווה.
ולעשות דברים, ככה הרגשתי שאני צריך, והלכתי למחלקות השיקום.
So I felt I really have to do this and so...
וחיילים שהיו בשטח, והלכתי לחיילים שהיו בשטח.
But I also have gone to soldiers who've been in different kinds of rehab.
בכל מיני מקומות, ונסעתי למחלקות השיקום בבתי החולים, ופגשתי אנשים.
Gone to several of the different departments of rehabilitation in hospitals, and have met with people who are...
אנשים אתה יודע, בעקבות המלחמה, בעקבות מה שקרה בקיבוצים ובמסיבה, ושוב, אני לא מגיע ואומר, פותח את הדלת, ואני אומר, הופה, תראו, לכאן אתם יכולים להגיע. ממש לא, המקום הכי פשוט של כאילו, אני על המיטה הזאת שכבתי לפני 9.5 שנים, כאילו, על המיטה הזאת שאתה שוכב שם כרגע, וכאילו, אם יש לך, כאילו...
יש חיים מלאים אחרי.
מה זה...
Look, I lay in bed for a year and a half, and the guy asked him, so, but now you have a full life? He says, what's a full life?
מה זה? רק חיוך.
אז אפשר להפסיק.
Look at this guy smiling, I can't get over, he says.
לא, אני מתחיל למחוק את החיוך.
And he goes back and says, we're talking about my smiling, I'm happy.
אתה דוגמה ומופת.
כי אנשים אומרים, אתה יודע, בשלב אנשים אומרים מה וזה, מה הוא עושה, בטח הוא לא עושה בזה, אבל אתה נוהג, נכון? אתה...
You watch this next thing. This next thing, it blew me away, and it's coming in a few seconds. They're going to pull out two smartphones. A guy's going to comment and say, I understand that you text people. He says, yeah, I text people. What do you expect? You got it. Now you text people. He says, but how do you text people? Look, and they decide, you know what? If you're not offended by this, I'm going to pull out my phone. You pull out your phone. Let's agree on a sentence, and let's both text the other guy on the interview desk, and let's see which guy's text arrives first.
נוהג, עושה הכל.
מה זה עושה הכל?
שי בטירוף.
אני יודע למה אתם בטירוף. פעם ראשונה אתם רואים אותי וזה וזה, אבל אנשים שאיתי בערך, עזבו שבוע, כמה שעות, הם כבר שוכחים מהכל.
ברור, אנחנו שכחנו.
לא, אני, מה העיף אותי? הוא ישב פה וכתב הודעה.
כן.
עכשיו, הבן אדם כותב הודעה.
Sends texts.
פי 10, יותר מהר ממני.
Sends texts, I think, faster than I do.
תחרות.
אז זהו, בוא נעשה תחרות.
Make a competition.
תחרות.
באמת עכשיו?
שניכם, כן.
Let's do this.
וואטסאפ.
כן, פתח את הוואטסאפ.
שניכם שולחים.
This is what's going to happen. The guy in the gray and this guy are going to text, and the guy sitting to the left of the guy in the gray will tell us which text arrives first.
לי הודעה.
נתחיל בזה שאין לכם סיכוי. מי שמנצח...
המדליה שלו.
יפה.
סגור, אני לוקח...
He's saying you guys have no chance.
אני מאמר על המדליה. עם מי אני עושה תחרות?
אתה מתחרה איתי? לשלוח הודעה לפתחי, הוא מכתיב לנו.
כן, מי שמקבל ראשון את ההודעה...
וואי.
אני אומר לך את המשפט, ואז אני אומר 3, 2, 1, צאו לדרך.
יאללה, אוקיי.
I'm going to count down. 3, 2, 1.
אין על הלוחמים של גולני. 3, 2, 1.
It comes up with the sentence. Ein lochamim כמו גולני. There are no fighters like the Golani Brigade.
צאו לדרך. רגע. הגיע.
תרשום עד קצת.
אין על הלוחמים של גולני.
מה אני שלחתי?
ואתה, אין על הלוחמים של גולני, אבל הוא הגיע לפני.
הוא אפילו בלי טעות, תראה מה אני כתבתי.
Without typos.
טעות של לבב.
שים לי את המדליה בבקשה. שים לי אותה.
זה מדהים.
גדול.
You really won the gold medal.
תחרות את זה אתגר.
יאללה.
עכשיו שים לי.
שמענו שאתה יודע...
This thing, they decide, look, we've heard, we want to see how good you really are in your Taekwondo, your Jackie Chan stuff. So I'm going to put a cup on my head. I want to see if you could knock the cup off my head by kicking it off my head.
שים כוס על הראש בלי שתיפול.
שים לנו.
פיתחי, הידוע בכינוי פיתחי. שימו לב. טה-דה-דה-דם.
אתה מזניק אותי?
אני מזניק אותך.
מה אתה אומר לי? אתה עושה כמו בקרב אצלנו, אתה עושה סיג'ק.
סיג'ק, אוקיי.
אתה אומר סיג'ק, אני בועט.
3.
סיג'ק, תעשה לי ביטוח.
2. 1. סיג'ק! וואו, בואנה.
איזה מלך.
That's the part of Israel that I wanted to share with you. It's so important to know how much good there is in Israel. It's just such a wonderful people we are. We come from such a wonderful people.
אוקיי.
אני באמת מצפה לך ולקהל יקר לראות אותם במדיסון ב3 לספטמבר בעזרת השם חי אלול.
This was last year. Just a quick recap.
למצוא אותך בהסתרה שבתוך ההסתרה לגלות שוב בעצמי אהבה שבתוך האהבה, כי איפה אני, איפה אתה, מה עם הלב הזה שקפא מייחד שוב אל החום? איפה אני, איפה אתה, מה עם הלב הזה שעבד רק רוצה למצוא מקום? ותכף יבקעו המים, כל מים שבעולם, תכף יפתחו שמיים, כל שמיים שבאדם, ותכף יפתח הלב. כל מים שבעולם, תכף יפתחו שמיים, כל שמיים שבאדם, ותכף יפתח הלב. תכף יפתח, תכף יפתח, תכף יפתח הלב. על כל יושבי תבל ארצך עפר בדר, גאונו זכר על כל יושבי תבל ארצך תן לה 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 לה.
Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen.
This is the last part of today's program. I mentioned it at the beginning. Omer Dadaon won a gold medal at the Paralympics. And this is the gold medal ceremony with this we close right now.
Please stand if you are able for the anthem of Israel.
That guy got me. That guy got me. Anyway, thank you all for being here. And I hope you have a wonderful week. We'll see you Tuesday night for Navi and Thursday night for a class. Thanks a lot, everybody. Bye-bye.